Namaste Vasudevaya. So we are continuing the teachings of Lord Chaitanya by Srila Prabhupada. We are in the chapter Why Study the Vedanta Sutra. Yesterday we read about, four type of religiosity, pious activities, economic development, satisfaction of senses, and liberation from material bondage, and how, uh, Srimad Bhagavatam and spirituality is about all these four type of activities, and we wanted, like, uh, so the four regulative principles are, prescribed to regulate these things, and Srimad Bhagavatam is transcended to all these things. And so today, the socialist idea of society is artificially competitionless, because even in the socialistic state, there is competition for the post of dictator. The fact is, therefore, that the state of sense gratification is the order of materialistic life. Take it either from Vedas or from common human activities. As mentioned above, there are three divisions of the Vedas, namely the stage of fruitive activities for getting advancement to better planets like heaven, etc. And above this, there are activities of worshipping different demigods with the same intention of getting advanced into the different planets of different types of demigods. And lastly, there are the activities of reaching the absolute truth in his impersonal feature to become one with him. The impersonal aspect of the absolute truth is not the last word. Above the impersonal feature is the Paramatma or super soul aspect. Above that, there is personal quality of the absolute truth. Srimad Bhagavatam gives us the information about the absolute truth in his personal quality beyond the impersonal aspect. It is therefore greater than the topics of impersonal philosophical speculations, and as such, Srimad Bhagavatam is given higher status than the Jnana Kanda division of the Vedas. It is higher than the Karma Kanda division as well as the Jnana Kanda division, and it is above the Upasana Kanda division, because Srimad Bhagavatam recommends the worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, the divine son of Vasudeva. In the Karma Kanda of the Vedas, there is a competition for supremacy in reaching the heavenly planets for the better sense gratification. And the same competition is there in Jnana Kanda or Upasana Kandas. But Srimad Bhagavatam is above all of them because it aims at the supreme truth, the substance or the root of all categories. In other words, from Srimad Bhagavatam, we can know the substance as well as the relativities in the true sense and perspective. The substance is the absolute truth, the supreme personality of Godhead, and all emanations from him are relativities in different forms of energies. The living entities are also related to all different types of his energy. Therefore, nothing is different from the substance. But at the same time, the energies are different from the substance. This concept is not self-contradictory. Srimad Bhagavatam explicitly deals with this simultaneously one and different philosophy of the Vedanta Sutra, which begins with the Janmadhyasya Sutra. Such knowledge of the simultaneously one and different nature of the absolute truth is really for the well-being of the knower. Otherwise, the mental speculator misleads the people, wrongly establishing the energy as absolute. When it is understood, the truth becomes more pleasing than the imperfect conception of monism or dualism. Development of this consciousness leads one at once to the stage of freedom from the threefold miseries. The threefold miseries are in relation to the body and mind, two in relation to our dealings with other beings, three in relation to the acts of providence over which we have no control. Srimad Bhagavatam begins from the surrender of living entity unto the absolute person, with clear consciousness of the devotee's oneness with the absolute, and at the same time his awareness of his eternal position of servitorship towards the Lord. In the material conception of his life, he thinks of himself falsely as the Lord of all he surveys, and therefore is always troubled with the above mentioned threefold miseries of life. But as soon as he comes to know his real position of transcendental servitude, he at once becomes freed from all the above miseries. The servitor position of living being is vested in the material concept of his life with the false sense of overlordship. The living being must offer his service to the relative energies of matter. When this servitorship is transferred unto the Lord in pure consciousness of spiritual identity, the living entity at once becomes freed from the encumbrances of material affliction. Over and above, this Srimad Bhagavatam is the personal commentary on the Vedanta Sutra by the great author himself, and that also in the mature stage of his spiritual realization. Through the mercy of Narada, Sri Vasudeva is the authorized incarnation of Narayana, the personality of Godhead. Therefore, there is no question about his authority. He is author of all other Vedic literature, but surpassing all of it, he recommends the study of Srimad Bhagavatam. In other Puranas, there are different methods of worshipping the demigod, but in Bhagavatam, only the Supreme Personality of Godhead is mentioned. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the whole body, and the demigods are different parts of the body. As such, by worshipping the Supreme Lord, there is no need to worship the demigods because the Supreme Lord is at once fixed in the heart. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has recommended the Srimad Bhagavatam as the spotless Purana as distinguished from all other Puranas. The modes of receiving the transcendental message is to get through the ears by submissiveness. No challenging mode can help the receiver in getting or realizing the transcendental message. Therefore, in the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, one particular word is used for our proper guidance. This particular word is Shushrusu. One must be anxious to hear about the transcendental message, and this qualification of hearing with interest is the prime qualification for assimilating transcendental knowledge. Unfortunately, some persons are not interested in giving patient hearing to this message of Srimad Bhagavatam. The process is simple: interested in giving patient hearing to the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. The process is simple, but the application is difficult. Unfortunate persons will find enough time to hear ordinary social, political, and all sorts of idle talks. But when they are invited to attend the meetings of the devotees assembled to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, the unfortunate creatures will either be reluctant to attend such a meeting or they will indulge in hearing the portion they are unfit to enter into. Personal, professional readers of the Bhagavatam indulge in the confidential topics of the pastime of the Supreme Lord, which seemingly appear to be sex literature. Srimad Bhagavatam is meant to be heard from the beginning, and the class of persons who are fit to assimilate is to be mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.12. A bona fide audience for hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam is generated after many pious deeds. But an intelligent person, by thoughtful discretion, can believe in the assurance of great sage Vasudeva and give patient hearing to the message of Srimad Bhagavatam in order to realize directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And without undergoing the different Vedic stages, one can at once be lifted to the position of Paramahamsa simply by agreeing to receive patiently the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. The sages at Naimisharanya confirmed before Suta Goswami that they were increasing in their intense desire to understand Srimad Bhagavatam. They were hearing from Suta Goswami about Krishna and Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They were never satiated by such discussion because persons who are really attached to Krishna never cease to want to hear more and more about Krishna. I think I can stop here. So yes, chapter title, Why Study the Vedanta Sutra? I think now today's topic is covering, how Srimad Bhagavatam is a spotless Purana as recommended by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Bhagavatam is the, best of all the Purana. It talks about, you know, about absolute truth, Supreme Personality of Godhead, how, reading and hearing and accepting Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can, transcend from the, three modes of material nature. And also it says, like, we know the threefold miseries. one can surrender to the Krishna and hear to Srimad Bhagavatam and do a devotional service. One can get a freedom from all these threefold miseries. Um, and it talks about how Srimad Bhagavatam begins from the surrender of living entity unto absolute person with a clear consciousness and of devotees oneness with the absolute, and at the same time, this awareness of eternal position of servitorship towards the Lord. So we are eternal servants of Lord. Krishna is the supreme, and as we understand our position, and as we belong to supreme world, not into material world, I think that is the ultimate purpose of the life. And also it says, you know, how do one has to receive the transcendental message by submissiveness, and also one must be anxious to hear the transcendental message. I think with that we can stop today and go to chanting.